In the beginning, drugs were my solution.
I always felt out of place. When I started using, I felt a part of something.
By the time that I was 18, I knew I was an addict.
Over the next 20 years,
20 years,
I had given up my kids.
I had lost my marriage,
I had given up my wife,
children,
material belonging,
freedom.
my health. I had to fight for my life. I can remember thinking to myself at one point that if this was the end for me, just let it be, because I didn't want to fight anymore.
I was so broken and just so done with life. And I knew then
I needed to find
a safer way to live.
All right, what's going on, everybody? That was tonight's guests, recovery influencers Sonya and Steve Johnson. I'm Daniel, Unmanageable, and this is Hard Knocks Talks, coming at you from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Treaty Number 6 territory, and the traditional homeland of the Métis people. Let's bring in Sonya. Sonya, how are you?
I'm doing so well. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I'm coming from Florida.
Oh, I didn't know you were down in Florida. Do you guys ever hang out with the Hope Shot?
They are literally maybe an hour away from me. So we've connected quite a few times, and I hope to meet up with them soon.
Yeah, Justin's a cool guy. I like him a lot.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Let's bring in Steve. Steve, is it Steve or Steven?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
I answered both.
All right, cool. How are you, man?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. Is there anything that either of you would like to say tonight before we dive in?
I'm just really glad to be here. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I know we're an hour early, so I really appreciate you guys that have jumped on with us. And I really hope that the message that we share tonight touches somebody's lives. And I'm going to tell you, this is something that we have never done before. So I hope that you guys feel really special, because Steve and I are actually telling our story together, and this is an exclusive.
All right. On Hard Knocks Talks, we are honored that we are the first platform that this is happening on. Having said that, let's not waste any time.
This is Hard Knocks Talks.
Okay, before we dive in, I just want to let our viewers and listeners know that tonight's live production is sponsored in part by the Elizabeth Fry Society of Saskatchewan, helping women before, during, and after incarceration, Prairie Harm Reduction, emphasizing local action with national impact, and Stronger Together Canada, peer-led support groups by Moms Stop the Harm. To learn more about all our sponsors, visit www.hardknockstalks.com. So, we talked a little bit before the show, and I said, who's going to start? Who's going to go first? And we decided, even without saying words, that it was going to be Sonya. So, Sonya, where would you like to begin? Now, typically what we do is we start at the beginning. Like, tell us, just even ever so briefly, what was it like growing up? Did you grow up around a lot of substance use, or how did that play out?
So what I know now, but I didn't know when I was younger, is that there is addicts and alcoholics all throughout my family tree. But growing up, I didn't realize that, and I wasn't really exposed to it in my younger years. So I was born. My mom and dad were together when I was born. I'm an only child, so as you can imagine, I was spoiled and entitled, got everything that I want. I thought the world was just this perfect place. And then my parents got divorced when I was 8 years old, and things really changed a lot after that. My mom became a single mom. She worked really hard to provide for me, but I spent a lot of time at home alone. So when she did drink, but she was not an alcoholic, right? So it wasn't a problem. Even though I was around it, it wasn't a problem. Well, when I was about 11 years old, she was dating a guy, one of her boyfriends, and he was a real alcoholic. So he would get drunk, act a fool, but he started grooming me. And I know that now. I didn't realize what was happening then, but he would give me a lot of attention and affection and all of what I wanted from my dad. However, he was also giving me like cigarettes on the down low, gave me my first joint on the down low, and gave me other substances. He used to buy me ecstasy and acid. And one night he used that as a way to take advantage of me. So he had bought me some ecstasy one night, and he came into my room and he sexually abused me. So after that happened, that abuse continued, right? And it left me feeling really confused and just it was traumatic. So that's
Mm,
really where my addiction began.
mhm,
And then I just kind of went through trauma after trauma in my teenage years. I started partying a lot, wound up getting pregnant, lost the child, and then the father of that child overdosed. Then I immediately got into an abusive relationship. It wasn't
mhm,
abusive in the beginning, but it
mhm.
became abusive very quickly. So from the ages of 11 till the ages of 18, I was on the path of an addiction.
Mhm. Wow. Um, Steve, how old were you the first time you got loaded?
13, 14 years old.
Mhm,
Uh, so I would started off, it was, I mean, I would like to say innocent, but we would, drink a little bit and then smoke a lot of weed, and that seemed to be acceptable in the crowd that I hung around with.
mhm,
And it wasn't till actually until I moved to Florida, so about 16, I come down here and the ecstasy scene was a big deal at that point here in Florida. And at that point in my life, I had never used any hard substances, just alcohol and pot. So it was definitely, a new experience, and it opened me up to a whole new situation in life. I would like
mhm,
to say that it got better, but as I've learned in my age, that addiction, it just continues to get worse. It doesn't ever get better.
mhm,
I slowly spiraled out of control. Um, I was a functioning addict, so I was able to get up and go to work every day and support my habit. But
mhm,
it started off just Friday nights and the weekends, and would hang out and have fun on the weekends, and then it slowly but surely became Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then it was
yeah,
just at some point it was just to be okay or normal or not sick,
mm,
and it's just a terrible way to live, and it happened slowly, but it was also quick. I don't know how to make that make sense, but
mhm.
um, by the time I was 30, I had been through
Oh,
multiple addictions. I had tried.
whoa,
Yep.
we're almost at the end here already now. Hang on now.
No, not hardly.
Okay, okay, sorry. So before we get too far
Yeah.
ahead now, you guys met as teens. Like Steve, what was it like? Do you
Mhm.
remember meeting Sonya? Were you guys both already like heavy into it when you met, or did you jump off a cliff together?
So so when I was 16, I came here. I emancipated myself from Georgia. I was in a lot of trouble in Georgia, so I came here evading the law, and so upon getting here, I went to work at a Checkers that's no longer here. It tells you how old I am.
Mhm,
And I met a girl. Me and this girl, 3 months after we got together, decided we were going to move in together. So our first apartment, she's like, I got my best friend, and she's gonna, share the apartment with us. So her and her boyfriend just so happened to be Sonya and her boyfriend at the time.
Oh, this does not
So we
sound
all
like
lived
it ended
together.
well.
We all lived together at 16, and I dated this other girl for multiple years after that, even after our little party nest broke apart, after a
Okay.
couple years. Or yeah, so
Yeah.
that's how we met. That was like, we showed up, was like, hey, this is so and so, this is so and so, this is so and so, and we're all gonna
Uh-huh.
live together. So,
And what could go
get to know each
wrong?
other. Right, exactly.
Sonya, what
That's
was that?
pretty much how that happened.
Yeah, Sonya, what was that like for you? Like how long did you live together? Like Steven, you mentioned you stayed with this woman for a couple of years after that.
Mhm.
Sonya, how did you guys come together? Like tell me about that.
So, funny story, we didn't live together for very long because my boyfriend didn't work and we didn't pay the rent. So, we wound up getting evicted out of that apartment about 6 months later. However, we continued to remain friends because the girl that he was talking about was my best friend for 20 years.
Hmm.
And listen, I know it doesn't sound good, but it is what it is, right? So, they were together for 6 years and they actually broke up at the same time that I broke up with the abusive relationship. And so
Hmm.
Steve and I were really good friends and we started hanging out. I want to say it was probably the second night we hung out. We went to the club and it was all history from there.
So when we talked before, now you both had your own challenges together. At what point, and like maybe one of you came to the realization before the other one, and I'm not really sure, but like at what point did y'all start to realize that, you know, maybe the way we're living isn't productive?
I'm pretty sure we knew that, but we just never
Yeah.
had the willingness, you know?
Yeah.
He worked.
No,
Steve always worked.
Uh-huh.
Go ahead, babe.
yeah, it was till the bitter end. There was no, breaking point. I mean, there was, but it wasn't one that we foresaw. It took a Sarasota County Sheriff's Department and a lot of people. It took the whole tribe, if you want to say, to
Mm-hmm.
get us to get to a place where it was like, okay, we need to do something different.
It takes a
I mean, if you
village.
think about it, our children didn't, all the things that we had worked for and lost didn't. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, people that we cared about, none of that stuff mattered. The only thing that mattered was
Mhm.
continuing to get high.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
when that pivotal point was, I don't know. I mean, when I lost my father, I quit going to work. I like lost something, and then things got really bad from there. Um,
Mhm.
I kind of remember the bottom falling out because we had a bottom at that point, but it was only so deep. I don't know if I'm explaining it very well, but we had maintained at this level of being able to use and function up until that point.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, when you got pregnant, was there any amount of
Mhm.
recovery there, or at least like, was there abstinence? Did you guys have to do
Mhm.
abstinence.
maintenance? What did
Yeah.
that look like?
Well, really all of the above. So what happened is when we ran away, we wound up running away to Georgia together. That's when we actually got together. So we both broke up, we hooked up, and then we decided we were going to run away together because we already knew we had a drug problem by that point in time, but we
Mm-hmm.
thought that the drug problem was in Florida. So if we could just
Mm.
get away from Florida, then we could get away from the drugs, but it
There
didn't
was
work
one in
out like
Georgia
that.
too?
You
Yes.
wouldn't believe it, bro.
Holy
You
cow.
wouldn't believe
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Right
Yeah.
outside of
So
Atlanta. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
yeah. But so
Yeah.
what happened though is that so when we got to Georgia, we continued partying. We just did a different substance. And within a few months, maybe about a year of being there, I got pregnant.
Mm,
And so I told you earlier that I had lost a baby in my teenage years. Well,
mm,
I didn't want to lose another baby. So I came down to visit my mom for a little while and detox off of the drugs long enough to have my firstborn son in
mm,
'08. And then in '09, we got married. And then in 10, we had our second born son. And so after that, like we tried to be functional addicts, right? Like only smoking weed, only taking, pain pills and stuff, but we weren't really heavily addicted. We were managing because again, he was a good worker. He was a hard worker. And then we
mm,
got on the whole maintenance train. So we did all of the above. We tried
mm,
everything to fix the problem other than stopping.
mm. So you stayed sober for a while. You got pregnant and then you got married in sobriety. Now, do you call that sobriety or do you just call it like relief?
Mm-mm.
Well, it
No, it
wasn't
really wasn't
sobriety.
sobriety.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I stayed sober long enough to be pregnant. When we got married, we got really messed up that night. Really messed up. And we got really messed up at the wedding
Yes.
too.
Mm,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. They kept taking the beer out of my hand and giving it to me in a wine glass, so that for pictures purposes. I
Oh,
remember that.
yeah. You
Yeah.
got to be classy.
He didn't stay sober while I was pregnant. I stayed sober while
No,
I was
no,
pregnant.
she owns all that. Like she did that. I don't know how she did it. That was all her because it wasn't me. I was still doing my thing,
Yeah.
at that point. So
Mhm.
Did you feel
yeah,
guilty at
she
all?
that was her.
Like
No,
when
no,
no?
not at all.
No.
No.
Sonya, did you ever like get angry with him and like try to like
Oh
make him
yeah.
stop?
Oh
Bit of
Yes,
a
yeah.
because he would be doing meth with his friends while I was pregnant, peeking out the windows, doing projects, tweaking out, and here I am like, I wanna do it, but I can't do it, so
yeah.
now all I can do is just be pissed off at him, right? So, yeah, I was
Yeah.
very pissed off.
You know that I think look at Donna's like, "Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah." You
Yeah, it's
remember?
very angry.
I remember I was sitting around the living room smoking that shit, and Donna's sitting there. Fuck.
Yeah, this sucks. Yeah. No, I
You have
looking
to.
back, I have some remorse, like I was thinking, well, that wasn't cool of me, but during
Yeah.
it, no, not a thought in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So,
you'd be like, hey, I'm gonna stop tomorrow. It's one of those
oh,
deals.
always gonna stop tomorrow.
Yeah.
We got a. Yeah, we've got a couple of comments here. Let's look at some comments. Let's see here.
So the first comment comes from Natasha Tuttle. Thanks for your comment, Natasha. And she says, I have been so mad at times. Laugh out loud.
Mm,
Yes.
mm,
Me too, girl.
Yeah. And next comment from Justin Spearling says, this is so my story.
mhm,
I think a lot of people
Mhm.
can relate to these sorts of
Yeah.
scenarios. And Natasha Tuttle
mhm.
says, it's how it is.
Yeah.
And here's a good one.
And Justin Spearling says, to be cool with the ex is new and refreshing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
But we're not exes anymore. We've gone past that.
That's right.
Yeah. Ask 6 years ago me if I would be
Yeah.
where we are today. I would have been like, "Ugh, never.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever come to a place like that? Like when you did you ever split and
Mhm.
like just like I'll never get back with that person?
Well, we
Yes.
split, but there was never we wouldn't get back with each other. I don't think.
Hmm.
Not for me,
Well,
anyways. It's kind of like
yeah.
some pride and ego, maybe, but ownership.
Hmm.
Just my sick way of thinking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we went through a lot of really hurtful time for me anyways, like we went through a lot of really hard times where we just got to a point where we were purposefully hurting each other, like to see who could hurt the other one the worst. And I kind of checked out after that for a little while, but then we kind of crossed a bridge where we weren't together, but we would talk on the phone and say, we're going to get back together. We're going to do this. We just had no idea how or if it was actually going to happen. It was just something we would say. I think it's something we wanted. We just didn't know if it was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So, Sonya, you mentioned earlier that you copped a few felonies and stuff like that. How did that play out?
Mhm. Yes, I did. So it was really at the end of our addiction, right? So at the end of our addiction, we had separated. Steve had almost lost his life, and he can tell you about that in a minute. But I was just in a place where I didn't care anymore, right? It didn't matter what I had to do for more drugs. I was hanging around some really, really, really dangerous people. I was in way over my head. And I was driving away from a trap house one night. And this one cop had been after me. He had already arrested Steve. He had arrested my friends. He had towed my cars. Like every time that I was on the street, this dude was following me, right? So one night I was leaving a trap house and he got me and I tried to sneak into jail. So, first of all, I got arrested on driving on a suspended license, third or subsequent, which was a felony. And then I had drugs on me, and I didn't want to tell them about it because who wants to tell the cops that you have drugs on you?
Mm,
So, when I went to jail and I tried to go through the metal detectors or the not the metal detectors, but the screening thing where they could look at your body, the body scanner.
mm-hmm.
So they put me through the body
Mhm.
scanner and they found my drugs.
Mm.
And then I got charged with a bunch of more felonies and I wound up going to
Oh,
jail for
yay.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, Steve, tell me what that. So many buttons to push. Where are you, Steve? Let's get this done. There we go. What was it like for you? Now, we're going to get to your health challenges here in just a sec, but I'm interested to hear about what it was like for you when Sonya went inside. Like, what thoughts went through your head? Were you like, good, that's good for her. She'll dry out. Or was it like, oh, I'm going to miss
Uh,
her?
no, I had racked up my own legal trouble, and I so I believe I was in rehab when she got arrested. And at that point, we hadn't been talking. I mean, very, very seldomly we would have conversations on the phone or whatever. But because I was in rehab and, my where I was in my mind at that point, it was hard for me to talk to her on the phone because, I mean, it's kind of reverse of the whole pregnancy thing. Like I would call her, she'd be all twacked out and talking on the phone, and then I would get all angry and resentful and stuff. So I didn't want to talk to her. So I would call her periodically, like whenever I was feeling weak, for lack of a better word, and just check on her and make sure she was doing okay. You know, she was alive is what I was looking for, actually. Um, so I was in treatment, and she I got word from her mom, because her mom was bringing the kids up to see me at the rehab. It's the first time, you know, I'd been approachable in a couple years at that point, you know. So it was good for the kids to see me, and then also like I come real close to losing my life before that. So you know, everybody counted me out. You know,
Mhm.
the year prior to that, everybody
Mhm.
thought that that was going to be the end of it, right?
Mhm.
Um, so I think her mom, maybe guilt driven a little bit, thought it would be a good idea to make sure that I got to see the kids as much as possible before I got back on the street, because the rehab was only 4 months long, you know.
Mhm.
But you know, I vaguely remember. I remember her mom telling me, but I vaguely remember like how I felt about it. I think that I was so caught up in my own self-centeredness that you know, I wasn't able to process what was going on with that. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah.
So
So tell us a little bit. So many buttons. Where are you? There we go. So I try very hard not to pretend I'm perfect. So if I can't find a button, I will let people know that I can't find the button. There's so many. So tell us about your health challenges then. They got pretty serious.
yeah, so I kind of mentioned earlier, when my father passed away, I took that really hard, and I kind of spiraled out of control at that point, and I would had already just begun to start using my drugs in a different way, and after a couple of years of that, so what happened was I ended up contracting endocarditis, which is a bacteria that grows in your heart, and it caused me all kinds of heart problems, and it caused me, um, well, just if useless knowledge, but if your heart has problems, the rest of your body follows suit. So if your heart's
Mm-hmm.
not right, you know, your kidneys, your
Oh, that's
liver,
right.
all that stuff follows suit, right? So you know, they needed me to do a 40-day treatment of vicamycin, which is an antibiotic. That's all it needed, was 40 days. And supposedly it would get rid of the infection. And I just was not able to stay in the hospital for 40 consecutive days, because it came between me and getting high. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it got so bad to the point that when I decided I was going to get up and leave, the nurses wouldn't even MMA me, which, you know, release you on medical or whatever, uh, against medical, whatever. Uh, they would just tell me, go down there, do what you need to do, and come back upstairs, please. Like they
Mm-hmm.
just didn't want me to leave the hospital. They just didn't want me to die.
That sounds
Um,
beautiful.
yeah, so I've been back there since, and took them all flowers, and they all swooped in. It was funny. Um, but nevertheless, they were for somebody else, but that person had gotten out, so I just went up there and was like,
Yeah.
And now they all know.
Yeah, yeah. Now,
yeah,
now they're all like, I
it's
hated those
it's
flowers
okay.
anyways.
Right. Yeah. Stomp on them. Still got it like over there in a book or
Yeah, it's
something.
like
Just
all
throws it
framed
away.
up, and these are the flowers from the
Right.
nice young man.
Right.
Sonya, what was it like for you
Yeah.
when you heard that? Like, so did you hear that he went in? Did you hear about these challenges he was
Mhm.
facing when they were happening? What was that like for you?
Yes, I was with him when he contracted endocarditis. So this was kind of the end of our using days together.
Mm,
So we were both using together, and he would go in and out of consciousness. He was running really, really high fevers, like 106 plus fevers. And then he would be under the blankets sweating and having chills. It was really scary. But that wasn't really the scary part, because when we got to the hospital, we found out that his kidneys were in failure, and they told him that if he left, he was going to die. And so we convinced him to stay, but after a little bit more testing, once they admitted him, he had a Staph aureus infection in his blood that had spread into his heart, into his lungs, and into his kidneys. So the problem that I had is that they knew I was an addict in active addiction. So they didn't want me at the hospital. So while he's receiving all of these treatments, I couldn't go up there and be with him. And day in and day out, we didn't know if he was going to live till the next day. It was by far the scariest time of my life. And I just remember during those times, like just crying and praying and pleading with God to just please save my husband. I didn't want my kids to grow up without their father. It was a really, really scary time. Mhm.
So what finally did it for you guys? Did you guys come into recovery together or at the same time?
I really think that it was
Couple
meant to
months.
be, honestly. We have, so Steve is actually 3 months older than me in age, and I am 2.5 months older than him in clean time. So yeah, I know.
Take
I
that,
had to throw
Steven.
that in there.
I had one relapse, and I would have had her
It
by like
happened. It
6
happened
months.
one time,
Once,
Sonya.
one time.
Once.
That was it. Yes,
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
weekend. That was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what happened is that so he was at the treatment center when I went to jail, and then he wound up catching like a technical violation and had to go turn himself in on a warrant. Well, when he got to the jail, we were both in there together, and the judge was going to send him back to the treatment center at first appearance, but he knew where I was and he knew I was safe in the jail, and for some reason he just wanted to stay in the jail because the treatment center he was in was not really a treatment center. It was just a big sham. He could tell you about that if he wants to, but everything just all the stars aligned, right? Like I got sentenced to treatment and then he went to a halfway house. He did have one relapse, but he got right back on track. I mean, he used once, he went to detox, and then he went right back to the halfway house. So everything just kind of aligned for it to work out, and that's why, I just know it was meant to be, and we decided to put the past behind us, let bygones be bygones, and move forward, because that's what we really wanted to do.
Yeah, sorry for the ruckus there. We've got a giant dog in the studio and he was playing with a ball and Donna had to make that stop happening. Yeah.
Got the ball.
Just big enough for him to swallow and have,
Yeah.
problems, vet
And
bills,
like,
all the
Right.
things,
choke on the live stream. Hey, he's just down there.
Right.
Oh, we got some comments coming in here. Let's have a look at a few comments. Let's see what we got here.
All right. So Christine Stoner says, so glad we didn't have body scanners in Minnesota all the times I've been arrested.
Yes. Okay. Can I just say something? The reason that I brought the drugs in is because I had done it in the past many times and gotten away with it. And then they got this new technology body scanner and I didn't know. So that's why I got in trouble.
What else do we got here? Here we go.
Okay. And Jessica Mason, thanks for your comment, says, I didn't stop. I'm now fighting to get my child back from foster care. Not an easy road, but I'm now right at 3 months clean. All glory goes to God, clean from everything.
Yes.
Amen.
Yes. Congratulations.
Yeah, just stay the path. It will happen. It gets easier. It's a struggle though. It's not, it's not easy. That's for sure.
Yeah, it'll definitely test you. That's for sure.
Mhm.
And Natasha Tuttle, thanks for your comment, says, I have 6 children in foster care and I am a year clean. I stopped using the day they were removed, but my husband is in active addiction right now. It's so hard. I love him so much. He started drug treatment today. I'm proud of him for that.
Yes.
Excellent.
Mhm.
Gosh, I'm so happy to hear
That's
that. I'm
awesome.
so proud of you, Natasha.
Yes. And Christine Stoner says, oh, we did that one already, darling.
Oh, did we do that one already? I
that's
thought
the
it was
body
super funny
scanner.
that her last name is Stoner and she's talking about lucky she didn't have body scanners, and I wanted her to shine some more light on that, I guess. So, okay, tell us what it was like coming into recovery. Now, you said that there was a bit of a discrepancy between your sober days, which is what it is. What was it like coming into recovery? Like, did you guys reconcile right away as soon as you realized you both had a minute clean, or how did that work?
No. So, another thing that maybe we could talk about in a minute or go back on is that we also lost custody of our kids. So, it was
Yes.
really the fight of our life in the beginning of our recovery. And just to go back on what the comment, I think it was Christine, I can't remember the name, but the comment said it was Christina, that she's a year clean and that her husband just got to treatment today. I made a decision when I was in treatment that I was going to do this with or without my husband because I had to do this for me and my kids. One of us had to be the parent, you know? So I just want to say I'm so proud of you. But yeah, and it just happened to work out. But we knew that if we wanted to be together, so he showed up at the treatment center and he's like, I don't care about all that stuff that happened in the past. I just want to be a family. And I wanted that more than anything in the world. But we knew if we were going to make that work, that we had to work on ourselves for a while first. So that's what we did.
How long did you stay apart?
Well, as long as DCF would allow us. So DCF stands for Department of Children and Families, and there's a federal timeline that you have to be completed in your case plan in 12 months. So we had gotten almost to the end of our case plan, and then we had to move back in together. I want to say
Wow.
that what we're like 9 and 7 months clean when we moved back in together. It was a little soon, honestly.
That's messed up.
I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Did I hear you correctly that they forced a reconciliation, basically?
Well,
Well, if we wanted the kids back, we had to get stable housing. We had to show that we had
mhm,
stable housing, and so it was part of it. Now, if one of the other one of us could have, obtained all the goals that they wanted to take place, then yes, we could have stayed separated. But it
Okay,
was
okay.
easier to work on those
I
goals
understand.
together,
Okay, I
Yeah.
understand
yeah,
now.
and only
Okay.
one of us would have got the kids back if we would have did that. So it just made sense financially to just take that leap of faith.
Hmm.
hmm
So, how was that leap of faith? What was it like reconnecting with your kids in recovery? Did it happen?
Mm,
Like, was there supervised access for a while? Was there like tell like because
mhm,
Donna and I both have experienced apprehension as well. We walked
mhm.
that road, so we know a little bit about it. What was it like for you?
Yeah, in the beginning, it was really hard. And thankfully, my mom had my kids when we were going through this process. So she was really good to us in the way that if we were doing good, she wanted us to be a part of their life. She wanted them to be a part of our lives. So she would come see me in treatment, just like she came and saw Steven in treatment, you know. So she fostered that relationship. But then when we finally brought them home, it was really challenging in the beginning. You know, they didn't really trust us. And we had to prove that we were going to do what we said that we were going to do, and we had to earn their trust and accept their feelings and, you know,
Mm-hmm.
accept responsibility for our actions. So it was, and then we had to work on our relationship at the same time we were doing all of that, and our recovery and our job, and like all of these things. In the beginning, it was a lot. It was a lot. And I was on felony probation, so was he. And we were piss testing for DCF, so it was just every day there was something going on in the early
Mm-hmm.
recovery.
Wow. Yeah. I had to do that for over a year. I had weekly drug tests. I had to mandatory meetings. Did you do AA or NA or anything like that?
Mhm.
Yeah. Did you guys like we
Uh,
can did you guys ever say like we can sponsor each other?
no.
No,
Yeah, it was-
I, I, I'm part of Narcotics Anonymous.
Mm,
That's what worked for me.
mm,
Um,
Mhm.
I I have a couple sponsees. I have a sponsor from New York City.
mm,
You know, uh, it's I wish, shoulda, coulda, wouldas is what we'll call it. I wish I would have found Narcotics Anonymous back right after we had our kids when I was living in Lake Sarasota. If I'd
Mhm.
have found it then, life would have been different from this point. But that's just shoulda, coulda, wouldas situation.
mm,
So
mm.
Mhm.
um, because the thing about it is you don't know. I didn't know that there was other people like me. I thought I was this lost case, uh, and I didn't realize that there was a whole society of people out there that had the same struggles, the same mental, uh, battles that I had. So
Mhm,
once I found that group of people, and I didn't find it willingly, I was I was on probation facing prison time, and I was forced to go into this rehab. They had 400 meetings in 4 months or something like that. And
Oh
that's what it
shit.
took to get it through my thick, hard-headed skull,
Yeah.
the smallest morsel of, the program.
Uh-huh.
I finally heard something that resonated with me, and it finally, uh, I identified with the guys that were coming in there and how they feel and how their lives are going.
What did
And,
you hear?
and then,
What was the thing?
well, I mean, initially I thought that they were full of shit, that they were all high and they were just coming into the rehab,
Yeah.
and telling us how good their lives are. And so as I slowly started to tear those people apart, with manipulation skills and just in
You tore them apart?
conversations and stuff, trying to catch them, trying to catch them up in their own shit.
Yeah.
I slowly started to realize that they weren't they weren't full of shit, and that they had
Yeah.
found a new way of life, and that they were happy, joyous, and free, and they were building their lives
Mm-hmm.
um, beyond what they thought their lives could be.
Yeah.
And it gave me hope, and that's the major thing, is that I had hope that I could have a life like that, and that I could obtain what they had. And
Yeah.
that's what started the journey, was that hope.
Yeah, and that's
Mhm.
funny that you mentioned like you're trying to tear them apart with your manipulation and all that, and they were probably just laughing at you, like, let's look at this guy,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah, look at
so
this sick individual that
yeah,
thinks he's got a drop on us, and he
yeah,
has no idea what's going on right now. Yeah.
let's fuck with him.
Yeah.
So
That's the thing, you have to remain humble when you go into those places, because you're going to run
oof,
into those walks of lives, and you're going to have to be
Mhm.
humble enough to know that they're sick and that they need help, and you're going to have to be humble enough to, instead of, like, I have to constantly keep my pride and ego in check. So I have to be humble when I go into those places and not put myself in a position where I'm holier than thou,
hmm
and understand where
Mhm.
they're coming from,
hmm
so it's a constant battle, especially for me, to stay in that place.
So when
So
when you came to realize that it was in fact you that was full of shit and not them, did it feel like a
yes.
weight? Did it feel like a weight came off? Like, oh, thank God! Like I'm sick of trying to be right all the time. Or did shame come on? What was it like?
uh
Like for me,
so
like for me, it
our
was like
our community is, yeah,
I was just
go
gonna
ahead.
say, like for me, like when I had those realizations that like I was an asshole too, like it was like
Hmm.
it was like a weight came off for me. It was like,
Right.
oh, okay, so some of these people are treating me this way because I deserved it. Okay, so that I can work on. Like I
Right.
can work on me. So, anyways, sorry. What was it like for you?
No. So here in this area, we're truly blessed, because we have an amazing recovery community. It's unlike any other that I've ever been to. And
Mhm.
there's a lot of camaraderie within the people, and I found that the sicker that people are, the more they're drawn to the light, as far as
Yeah.
the inner circles of recovery. It's really strange, because
Mhm.
you never know who's going to make it. Like, if you're going to place bets on people as they come in the door, the one you think is never going to make it is the one that makes it. And it's just an
Yeah.
amazing thing. And they all stick together, and we look out for each other. And then those same people that I had those conversations with in the rehab, when I see them today, we laugh about it, and it's funny, because they knew I had to learn, and then once I
Mm-hmm.
learned, I respected them for being humble enough to
Mm-hmm.
not call me out and not treat me like I'm less than,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it was very beneficial, and it works for that
yeah,
purpose.
yeah.
It's
Mhm.
definitely an amazing thing. I bought a house here. Um I don't ever have any plans to leave in Sarasota, just for the community alone and the friends that I have built today, and
Mm-hmm.
the life that we've put together here in Sarasota is just beyond my
Mhm.
wildest dreams,
Yeah. So
like.
Sonya,
Mhm.
it sounds like you have a bit of a different path in recovery than Steven. Tell us a little bit about what you do to stay well, or how
Mhm.
you got well.
Well, I got well because I got court ordered to treatment. I had no intentions on getting
Coercion
clean when I was
works.
in jail. Yeah. So my kids
I
had been
don't want to
taken
go to
away, my
prison.
freedom had been taken away, and I didn't want to go to prison. That's
Hmm.
exactly what it was. And I
Hmm.
got graced an opportunity to go to treatment. So when I was in jail, I went to this place called the Recovery Pod. And in the
Hmm.
Recovery Pod, just like the place that he was talking about, you got to go to 4 meetings a day. So it's day in, day out, you're in meetings all day. Well, because I went to the recovery pod, somebody advocated for me to get a chance to go to treatment. So when I went to treatment, I went to the same one that he was at prior.
Hmm.
And so I went through the 400 meetings while I was in treatment. And while I was in there, I found Narcotics Anonymous as well. So
Hmm.
we both do Narcotics Anonymous. However, we do them separately because the men help the men and the women help the women. And one thing
Hmm.
that I learned when I was in my early recovery, thank God my sponsor told me this because it's probably saved us lots and lots of arguments, is never tell him to call his sponsor. Never go tell him what he needs to do with his program. That is his business and not
Yeah.
mine. The
Hmm.
only thing that I worry about when it comes to him and I is our relationship and our family, so we
Hmm.
don't try to work each other's program of recovery, but same for me. I mean, I don't talk about it a lot when I do my videos and stuff, and the reason why, if anybody's in Narcotics Anonymous, that the reason why is because of the traditions, right? We don't promote it, but it is part of my story. So I have a
Hmm.
sponsor and I work the steps and I have sponsees, and both of us actually go into that treatment center that we were at when we were at our lowest, and
Hmm.
we bring meetings back into there, and we go into the jail and we bring meetings back into there. And that's a huge part of our life because we get to give away what was so freely given to us. And
Hmm.
by being able to do that, it's given us a purpose. All of that stuff that we went through, all that pain and the shame and the condemnation and the guilt and just all of the things that we did wrong, we get to
Hmm.
go and we get to go sit with a sick and suffering addict and say, hey man, I've been there before. I feel you, and there's a way out. And I will show you how to get there if you have the willingness to find this.
Hmm. Did you put these in the? Oh, hang on a second here. Yeah, there's more comments. Gotta look at
Okay.
more comments. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so the first one is from our friend Twinkle. She wants to know, did you keep each other from recovery at any point? Was it the kids that made the determination matter most?
Okay, can I just cover this, Stephen? I hope you don't mind. So, people tried to save us for years before we got clean. Our families literally plotted against us and would pull us away, like by states, right? Like his mom took him all the way to Indiana one time. And mind you, we're in Florida. My family put me on a bus from South Carolina to Florida. They wanted us separated, but we were, because they knew the only way we were going to get clean is if we weren't around each other. But we were so codependent that we just couldn't let go of each other. And it had to happen through really God like pulling us apart because he got sick. I went to jail. He went to jail. We lost our kids. Like all of these things happen. And
Hmm.
that's what finally pulled us apart. But we would have never been able to do it together.
Hmm.
Never.
And next comment comes from Stephanie Childress. She says, you guys are such an inspiration. So proud of you
Mhm.
all.
Thank you.
And Twinkle, I think this is in reference to your mom having care of the kids. And she says, God bless your mama.
Yes.
Hmm. Oh, speaking of, that's funny,
Bless
Mama.
her.
Okay. Here.
Oh. Yes, I'm so grateful for my mom. I mean, really, she had our kids from 2014 until 2020. So she had our kids for 6 years. And
Wow.
my kids are 13 and 14 right now. So all of their child rearing days, she took care of them, and she would let us come around if we were doing okay.
Hmm.
But thank God for my mom. She held our family down when we were too sick to be
Hmm.
parents.
Did you see the kids just ripping around through the
Yeah.
back here? Like I told you. I told you.
I was
This is
trying
your
to distract.
yeah, this is your fault for making us come on an hour early.
This has turned into like a real family thing tonight.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all working out.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It
It's
is.
it's the sideshow going on,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Never.
I often feel like a what is it, the circus master of a 3-ring circus. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
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 And our next show.
Yeah. Dog's gonna start juggling.
Yeah.
Right,
The
right.
little balls that he was chasing around.
Yeah. So so have you guys do you successfully stay out of each other's way, like on your own paths to find your own peace and your own
Mhm.
serenity? Like, what are some of the things that you do apart? Like, do you do anything apart to, like separate hobbies, separate things that brings
Everything,
you healing?
Mhm.
everything. It's all separate. We work the same program, but we do it all separate, you
Mhm.
know. Um,
Yeah.
I have my group, I have my support network, I have my sponsor. She has the same, it's mostly separate. We have some of the same things that we do as far as in the community, but we're not like
Mhm.
quarterbacking this together by any means. Like we live together, but we live separate lives. So,
Hmm.
Mhm.
I
you know,
found
Yes.
when COVID hit, before that happened, I was quite involved in the fellowships. I would frequent them, and then when COVID hit, everything went virtual, and it wasn't working for me.
Mhm.
And I found other ways. Like, do you guys have ways outside of the program that bring you healing,
Mhm.
that keep you well, keep you on the straight line? Like, tell us about that.
Yeah, I
well,
mean,
I,
for
I,
me
yeah.
go ahead, you go first, babe.
Well, I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine, and I find my gas is what I call it. I find my gas in going into the treatment center and going into the jail.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't really get what I used to get from going to the meetings anymore. So that's where I find the juice to fill up my tank is going into those places and just sharing what's on my heart and asking questions and seeing if I can, get to that one person, because that's the ultimate goal, is to reach one person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
That's where I get mine at. Um,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
might make it to one a week if I'm like available, which most of the time I'm not.
Yeah.
Very busy
Well,
person.
so I just recently started working in the mental health field, and I don't know if anybody has any experience with that, but I've started working as a peer specialist, and it's very, very much open-minded. So it's a whole lot more than just Narcotics Anonymous. So I am learning right now. I've been in the process of learning for the last 6 months, and actually, let me be real. I've been in the process of learning for longer than that. I
Mm-hmm.
kind of feel like God was preparing me for this because ever since I've been on social media, I have met, I mean, literally thousands of people that recover in different ways. And what I think is so cool about it is that everybody can choose to recover however they want, and yet we can all remain united. And I just
Mm-hmm.
find that so magical and so special. So that started opening my mind up to other ways of recovery. And then in my job, we do peer support. So I support whatever somebody wants to do, as long, as many people as we have lost in the last couple of years. I just feel like we
Yeah.
have to support people right where they're at. But as far as like my recovery, I get my recovery through my support network, right? Through my meetings
Mm-hmm.
and through the support network that I've met in social media. I've got like a lot of really cool friends that I've met on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And then also like I work with parents who've lost their kids now. And so
Mm-hmm.
everywhere in my life that I go, like there is support network. So I would say like more than the meetings is the people that I surround myself with.
Mm. Was there ever any point in your recovery where you did think that that was the only way, and you'd like look down on people that didn't recover that way?
Mhm. Yes, there
Mhm.
was. Yes, and this is the thing. At that point in time in my life, I probably needed to think like that because that's where I was at in my recovery. I was very much like hardcore 12 steps. Like, if you're not doing it this way, you're not
You're
doing it
gonna
the right way, you
die.
know?
You might as well just go
Right.
out and die.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not
Yep.
sober if you're doing methadone, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But
Yeah.
really what I know now is that that was a me thing. It had nothing to do with them because I did methadone years ago and it didn't work for me, but the reason it didn't work for me is because I didn't work the program. I
Mhm.
got high the whole entire time. So I was putting my experience onto other people, right? So, but in the beginning, like I had to go hardcore 12 steps, breathing, eating, sleeping, recovery, 12-step recovery. But as I have found my groove, I have found acceptance and an open-mindedness to other people finding their groove.
Mm-hmm. Steve, what about you? Were you a blue flamer at the beginning too?
The way that I always define it, and this is just it doesn't matter. There's a line drawn in the sand for me, and I'm either on the good side or the bad side.
Mm-hmm.
As far as how other people find their recovery, that's just that, their recovery. That's
Mm-hmm.
how I feel about it. But for me, there's either this side or that side
Yeah,
because
you're
I've
in or
tried
you're out.
every other avenue.
Yeah,
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 Mhm.
I've tried just Fridays, just Saturdays, only
yeah,
once a month. I don't
yeah.
know, just this substance, just that substance. Yeah, it doesn't work. None of
Mm-hmm.
it.
Got a couple more comments here.
So Melissa Gissy Witherspoon says, I love that about my journey in recovering out loud. I share my path, but also learn so much about others' pathways to recovery.
Melissa,
Mm.
follow Sober Now on Facebook. Go do it right now.
She's a Georgia fan. I love it.
Wait,
Yeah,
who's sober
Go
now?
dogs.
that's
I've
Melissa.
seen sober.
That's her right
Oh,
there,
that's
Melissa.
Melissa. Okay, I follow you, Melissa. I just want to tell you that I follow you, girl. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that Melissa was sober now. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. The things you learn on Hard Knocks Talks, building
Yes.
bridges
Yes.
every day.
And our friend Twinkle again says, Hard Knocks Talks is like meetings for me. I've never been to them, but there's healing here for me. Plus, I'm learning
Yes.
people differently, yet more than ever.
Mm,
Mm.
Hmm.
Yes.
mhm.
Love that.
Do you get a lot of people saying that to you, to Sonya? They find recovery in the community that's come up around you on social media.
Yes, absolutely. So Jamie Tall and I do a live every
Mm,
Monday night, and we have regular people in there every single week, and that's their meeting. I
mm-hmm,
can't tell you how many people have messaged me and said that we had this one couple messages, and I was literally in tears when I read her message. She told me her story of her and her boyfriend and how they got clean after watching one of our videos, and how our videos kept playing a role in their lives of them getting clean. Like she got clean and then she was on the floor crying one night watching one of our videos when he walked in, and then he got clean after that. So the impact that it's just so amazing. I had no idea when I started doing this that posting videos about my recovery and his recovery would make such an impact on the community around us. So we definitely hear that a lot, and we're
mm-hmm,
so grateful for that.
mm. I think we're
Hmm.
coming to the end here, Sonya. What would you say? And Steve, we'll ask you next. What would you say to anyone out there right now who was in a similar situation? Got together with someone, burnt their shit down, and now they're trying to come back together. What would you tell them?
Okay, if this is a relationship, if you want to be back in, and I know there's a lot of people out there like that, but the best thing that I can tell you is if it is meant to be, it will be. So the best thing that you can do is work on loving yourself first. If you start loving you, then you will be able to give and receive the love that you deserve,
Mm-hmm.
because you do deserve love. You are worthy of having a happy and healthy relationship and a relationship with yourself. So if you focus on those things and boundary up, right? Decide what you will allow in your life and what you will not allow in your life, and honor that, and decide to participate in a relationship with somebody else while honoring yourself at the same time, I
Mm-hmm.
think that there is hope for relationships in recovery. I really do. We are living proof of that. So it absolutely is possible, but you just got to make sure that you got yourself right first, because we'll never be right for anybody else until we get ourselves right.
Mm-hmm. Steve, got anything to add to that?
Um,
You
so
were you weren't paying attention. You were looking at something.
no,
I saw that.
I don't know about relationships, but when I was in my active addiction, I used to reach out to my higher power, and I used to ask him to pull me out, to save me, to help me. And I would always come back to this verse that said, "Be still and know that I'm God." It would be on signs as I drove by the church. Uh, just in the weirdest places I would see this. And also the one that says that I will make all the crooked places straight, and I will use it and I will use your crooked, your crooked path to benefit, others and stuff, to make it better. I'll make it right, in other words. And today I realized that I had to go through that failure in order to be able to have the life experience, in order to be able to help other people. When I was in it, I didn't understand, and I wanted out, and I begged, and I prayed, and I pleaded, and he had a plan for me, and I had to walk through it. So just be still. It's coming. There is help.
That's right.
Amazing.
I love that.
Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you guys would like to talk about? Or did we just nail it? Did we just slay it?
We just nailed it. Slayed.
Cheeseburgers.
Cheeseburgers, yes.
Let's talk about cheeseburgers.
Yeah. Well, thank you
right.
so much for having us tonight, though. I want to tell you that I appreciate you. I
Yeah,
admire
thank you.
Yes, this was really cool that we got to do this together. So I really appreciate that. And I admire all of your whole audio visual skills is just awesome. So yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Okay, and
Yes.
it was
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And thanks for coming on. I know we had some scheduling challenges even before the scheduling challenges we had tonight.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I'm glad it finally came to fruition. And I know for sure that we will see you guys out there some more in Facebook land and over on Instagram. Oh, where can people find you? I almost forgot.
Yes. So you can
I'm in
Google
Sarasota,
search.
Florida.
My address
You
is
can
no.
find him with me, okay? He's all over my page. So
You can't find my man nowhere.
I was gonna make a TikTok where, you know how they play the sad music and they have the like the kids that are hungry, and they're, they're like, send $1 and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can help support this child, right? I was
Yeah.
gonna make one about husbands that have wives that do videos, for $1 a day you can help Steve evade his wife's videos.
Yeah, and not be on TikTok.
Right,
yeah.
yeah. I bounced this off a friend that has a similar situation, and we got a really good laugh out of it.
Yeah,
So
is that
I had to share
Jamie's?
that with
Is
you guys.
that Jamie's partner?
No,
No,
different person, but we did hook up with
yeah, I
him,
do.
and that was really,
Yeah.
really cool. That was fun. But yeah, you can go to
Mhm.
Sonya Johnson on Facebook. It's on TikTok. It's Sonya and Steve on Instagram, Sonya Johnson, and most recently on YouTube at Hope Shot Recovery. So definitely come check us out, support us, help us get the word out there, right? The more support and the more that you like and share, the more it helps us to get the word out there to others.
That is a fact.
Mhm.
Okay, my friends, thank you so much for joining us. We will let you go. We will see you again. Take
No
care.
problem. Y'all
Okay,
have a
thank
wonderful evening.
you.
It's my bedtime.
All right. If you're getting something out of what we're doing here, you can find us on all audio platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts, or live and interactive right here on Facebook and YouTube. Thanks so much for joining us. We will see you again next week. Take care, my friends.
Say, this is Hard Knocks Talks.